Secretly recorded from deep inside the bowels of a decommissioned missile silo, we bring you the man, one single man who wants to bring light to the darkness and dark to the lightness. Although he's not always right, he is always certain. So now, with security protocols in place, the protesters have been forced back behind the barricades and the blast doors are now sealed. Without further delay, let me introduce you to the host of Hutcast, Mr. Tim Hutner.
Thank you, Sergeant at Arms. You can now take your post. The views and opinions expressed in this program are solely those of the individual and participants. These views and opinions expressed do not represent those of the host or the show. The opinions in this broadcast are not to replace your legal, medical, or spiritual professionals. Welcome to Hutcast. Hutcast is on kind of a thing today. 11/12/2023. It's a wonderful Sunday morning. We have with us on the show Tim Ray, founder of UIMedia.org. We're going to bring him back here and we're going to have a conversation. I wanted to mention him in pre-roll because he's done some pretty amazing things. I've read his bio. Oh yeah, you want to stand by on this one and tune in and put your thinking caps on, your tinfoil caps, whatever it is you wear, put it on because we're going to need it today. So stand by for Hutcast. We'll be right back. The current healthcare system is not meeting the needs of real people. People are demanding better care, better options, and want results. So Gareth Care has launched and is advocating for those in the U.S. and internationally, as people are realizing the controlled system has not been there for them. If you want your own independent advocate that is not controlled by big corporations, call or text and enroll today to get your advocate for your needs serving all ages. For any healthcare needs you might have, you matter. Here's how you get started. www.garethcare.com. That is GRAITHCARE.com. Call Gareth Care direct at 469-864-7149. Call or text the questions to Healthcare Sucks and get an advocate with Gareth Care. 469-864-7149. Mention Hutcast and you will get an additional 10% discount on your first advocacy bundle. The staff at Gareth Care will take care of you. Remember, mention Hutcast and get that extra 10% off your first bundle of time. And this is all brought to you from Gareth Care. Welcome back to Hutcast. As mentioned in pre-roll, Tim Ray, the founder of UIMedia.org, is on the phone with us, and he's taken his wonderful Sunday morning, afternoon to come have a conversation with Hutcast. Tim, are you there?
Yes. Hello, Tim. And, I never met a Tim who wasn't a nice guy, so that's a great way to start our conversation.
Copy that. Okay, so I made some lists, and I did some research on you. I try to do that to all my guests, and I thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
And we as the common sense people in the world need to have a little more common sense of it, and we need more people out there to have common sense. And you're brimming with common sense. And I need to ask some questions. So if we were to start out first with, tell us about your journey from founding the United Intentions Foundations to hosting award-winning shows like Frequency Wars and Raising the Frequency. Talk to me.
Sure. Well, it wasn't always, it's kind of like it was the Field of Dreams, if you remember that movie, Build It and They Will Come. So we started the foundation back in 2009, but really prior to that, and even during that journey, it was really unknown what we were building, what I was even building. I was really more inspired. But prior to 2009, we started the United Intentions Foundation. I was just like most folks, caught up into the mainstream media, listened to the news going up and down based on who's in, Republican or Democrat, or this person or that person, and just caught on the roller coaster of fear, of being alone, of destruction, of wars. And it got to the point where I thought I was losing my mind. I was either going to build a bunker, or I was going to snap out of this reality And I always had some level of understanding of, I guess, frequency and vibration, or true nature of quantum physics. Just growing up throughout my spiritual journeys, kind of evolved into that. But I got caught up into the rat race, building my career and working for the man and doing the thing until I started my own business, even 20 years earlier. But I got to the point where I was there. I had to do something about it. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm not going to live under the ground in a bunker, because I couldn't imagine living like that for whatever period of time. I'd rather face my maker in whatever's next stage for me. And I decided to understand that the power of our intentions, our thoughts, and our physical properties, our thoughts and feelings have physical properties. They're measurable. If you listen to anything about Dr. Bruce Lipton or Joe Dispenza, even Greg Braden, they really get into a lot of the science behind that, especially Dr. Bruce Lipton, and how our thoughts affect not only inside our bodies with the placebo, nocebo effect and everything else that you hear about, but how our thoughts affect outside of our bodies, outside of our reality, and collapsing the wave into matter. And on that level, science, where you sometimes lose people, sometimes you gain people, but it's all about frequency and vibration. So here I was, low frequency, listen to the news, which takes you right there. Can't get lower than that.
Yep.
And I was like, you know what? I'm done, because I would internalize what they say on the news, and I'd bring it inside me, and then I would become part of my belief system, and then I would manifest that intentionally outside of myself now. So basically, I was creating the world that these jokers, these psychopaths who run the news as well, I was creating the reality for them. And I said, okay, no more. So I started the United Intentions Foundation, which is all about understanding the programs and resources, how we can claim our power back and really start creating heaven on earth, what we're really here for, through the power of our intentions, through love, through emotions, through our physical thoughts, and start connecting with like-minded people, which I'm sure, Tim, just knowing you and what you've been up to, you probably met more like-minded people in the last 3 years than you probably have in your whole lifetime.
Unconditionally, yes.
Yeah. And that's not just by a coincidence. I mean, that's just by design of who we really are.
A little bit of invention, maybe?
Say it again?
A little bit of divine intervention?
Absolutely. Divine intervention at 100% right there. But we're waking up to realizing that, and that's where I said, okay, you know what, let's get this foundation going, and not knowing exactly what I was building, but that let it out. And we started just doing shows. Then eventually we got into getting the shows out and getting the resources out. We had education programs, we had all different types of things, and evolved into really two main things now. The UI Media Network. People can check our shows out on, like you mentioned, Frequency Wars, Raising the Frequency. We have a new show coming out, Blacklisted, with Tim Ray.
Nice.
Yep. And we just got another show. It's called Freeing Hearts and Minds. It's all about, it's a relief fund for MK Ultra and targeted individuals and SRA survivors, where they have really very little support right now. They have no voice. In fact, most people don't even believe what they go through is true. And so we've been really kind of highlight that and get the message out with people on a monthly basis, giving their testimonies of their experiences, where people then can donate and assist them in the day-to-day life, which they get no support, especially a lot of these government agencies are doing that to them. So that's kind of, Tim, where led me to different directions. But I decided just to start waking up every morning and creating my own news.
Right.
And I was done internalizing the news and the information and the data that you gather from people around you who you don't know. You don't know who they are. You have no idea what their intentions are or their agenda or anything else.
Right.
So if there's truth to, we create our reality, co-create our reality with God, and then we're going to put it into practice and see exactly, like you said, pragmatically how it works.
Isn't that something? So you mentioned MK Ultra. That was like a thing way in the past. And are you like revisiting this for the victims of, or what's your plan?
Well, they say they stopped the MK Ultra in the past, but it's just been changed to new type programs, sub-programs. Just as you hear the cover stories. Well, the CIA stopped doing that back in the 70s. It was never stopped. In fact, it was full steam ahead. And just done more cleverly. And now you're talking about the old kind of trauma-based mind control, which they would do, and they torture people.
Right,
really,
right.
If you go down the SRA experience, they go hand in hand. It's really a satanic agenda techniques. Just put a little science behind it. But they've been doing that now today with what they're doing with the injections and and the direct energy weapons and the Internet of Things, the guise of this Internet of Things, creating this field around us. Really, what they're doing is they're giving them an opportunity now to target individuals where you don't have to traumatize them with this level of horrific experiences to split their brain, to create multiple personalities, and to embed in the program that you want. You literally could target individuals through their DNA, and they have the technology to support that today. And what we're seeing unfold, this bioweapon that they released on mankind and womankind, that they're using that ability to track people and to target them. So you're looking at an expansion of the MK Ultra program to degrees that almost unfathomable. And you'll find that many of these people who get targeted individuals, they have no support. I mean, you talk about superior technology. I mean, almost off-planet technology, and then you're looking at where you go. If the government's behind doing it, if there's certain agencies behind doing it, where are you going to go? You can't go to your local police station.
Right.
You can't go to the FBI or the CIA or the DOD. I mean, all these agencies have been weaponized. We just did a show on that with Steve Friend, who's an ex whistleblower for the FBI. I mean, when you hear his story, you're like, well, there goes the FBI. That we don't have them anymore.
Well, they weaponized that a long time ago, and they've been constantly weaponizing it against us.
Yeah, decade after decade. But now it seems like they're so. Don't you think, Tim, that they're so brazen about it, openly about it, where they don't care? Yeah,
it used to be behind our backs. Now it's in front of our faces.
Yes, and that's part of the desensitization process too. I think it's done even deliberately, so to show you how powerless we may be.
We're never powerless.
Of course not. No, and as you know more than anyone, it's all about that divinity spark. But so we started this relief fund. It's called the UI Freeing Hearts and Minds Relief Fund, and we have a high level Lisa E, who's a high level MK Ultra survivor. She's really helped running the fund and helping running that. We'll have guests each month coming on, giving their testimonies of what they're doing and how the funds are helping them live day to day. I mean, these folks often are living off grid because they can't be on grid. Otherwise, they always constantly are trying to be brought into the fold, whether they're SRA, they have gang targeting groups looking for them, or if they're MK Ultra, they're constantly trying to get them back into the programming. So it's like they're on the run all the time, and you can't imagine living life like that, especially not having funds where you're just trying to survive with food and shelter over your head and trying not to be found. It is extremely disrupting and it's inhumane, and so that's why we decided to focus on that, since there really isn't anything out there for them. I mean, most people, when you talk about this, Tim, they don't even know it exists. They think it's, like you said, it's an old time 70s program that they did and it went away. No, it did not, and there's plenty of evidence that shows that it's not.
Holy cow!
It's active. Yeah.
So my next question then is kind of ties all this together. How has the UI Media Network provided a platform for conscious-minded hosts and listeners to unite and share their stories?
Sure. Well, we started out where we were bringing a lot of conscious-minded. When we say conscious-minded, it's having a bigger picture. You're looking at life. You're connected to all life,
right?
Everything, and that when you make one decision to harm somebody else, you're really making a decision to harm yourself. And so when we look at life from a perspective of we're all connected to each other, war, zero-sum games, anger, hatred, all that kind of seems to go away, at least be alleviated off your frontal lobe here, where it's not your main focus, because you're realizing that there's a much bigger picture here, there's a more divine picture. And so we seek people like that, not only potential, we had a lot of hosts on different shows, but we got to the point where we're so busy because, we really, like you, myself, and all these other folks out here trying to get the truth out, really should be the mainstream media, and I believe will be the mainstream media eventually. But it's just a lockdown, and I'm sure you experience your level of censorship. I'm sure you experience your level of suppression of information, frustration over this, more so over the last 4 or 5 years. But it is that information we got to get out no matter what. But that's part of it, where we were so busy we could only focus on certain shows, and we seem that frequency wars seem to take off pretty well, and raising the frequency and a few other things that we have in place. So we had to kind of condense that, but hopefully eventually we'll be able to bring in a lot more conscious-minded hosts with their own shows and expand that on a visual level, not just on podcast level, but it's also the people that we have coming on. These are truth seekers. They're not beholden to any special interest group that says you can't say this because this is going to get you thrown off. So
he's paid or he's bought in somehow.
Exactly, and that's what people, as you know, Tim, people want. They're hungry. They want that level of information that's untainted, that's unspoiled, that's innocent. It's almost a hunger for it now.
But how do you sift through it?
Yeah,
there's so much. It's like when an attorney back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and I'm from that era, when they wanted to hammer the defense or the prosecuting team, they hammer with so much information. There's no possible way you could get through it. So they just put it in a box on the number 64 box, and you won't get to it. So
it's a great question, and it's a great point, because that's getting lost in the details, right? I think as we, and you do this very well too, as I listen to your shows, that you got to bring in a general perspective of what is information being said. So if you could get to somebody's belief system and have them either challenge their belief system, if it's a belief system that's limiting and empowering or creates a zero-sum game, if you could challenge that on a level of like, wow, I never thought of it that perspective. I thought, well, like for example, like Dr. Brian Ardis and the snake venom.
Yes.
Yeah, the COVID-19 was like, wow, we see that roll out, but I never thought that there would be snake venom in there. And once that came out, then you looked at the logic, you look at what was going on with that, then you realize, wow, okay, there is a lot to this venom that's in there. But I would have never been challenged if somebody came and said, listen, there's venom in there. But if you focus on the generality, it's like, well, what are the symptoms here? Well, this is what happens. This same thing happens when you get bit by a snake. This is the same thing happens when this is why this works here and doesn't work there. This is why you lost a smell. And you challenge that piece by piece, I think, on a general perspective, and the people will then question it. And then they'll go down the rabbit hole. And once you get them interested enough to find their own truth, to go down the rabbit hole, then I think that you will then realize how they specifically are able to make a point of like, hey, I see how now that this could be the case. Now I'm interested. I'm going to seek it out. I don't need you to tell me where to go. I'm going myself to see where the truth lies.
They create their own.
Exactly. And then also now that person's going to affect 10 other people. And then that person's going to affect 10 other people and so on down the line. And that's basically what you and I have been experiencing over the last 3 years. If you look at it, This is why so many people are waking up. And you got to hold on to that, even though it may be slow, or you still see this agenda, this UN agenda being rolled out, and this harm for humanity being rolled out. It's still we're making progress as we go.
Well, everybody's got an agenda.
Don't give up.
So our agenda is the truth. So if you say we're agendaless, that it's kind of a moot point.
It's true.
Our agenda is the truth, that we see it. And if you got to look at the other side, their agenda is the truth as they see it, but they didn't spend no time digging into it.
Exactly. And also, the truth takes you have to have in the back of your mind. I know you do, but you have to realize the truth may take you down roads that you're going to question your own personal beliefs.
Right. Yes.
And you got to be willing to go there. You can't just say, hey, this is because, I identify as this, so I don't want anyone to touch that area here because it's off limits.
Right.
You can't do that. You have to be completely transparent and honest with yourself more than anyone.
And have the hubris to realize when you're that wrong to just stop. See, a friend of mine wrote the intro to the show, and he knows me quite well, and he says he's not always right, but he is always certain. And that is a little check mark in my calibration file that says, even though it kind of stings, he's right.
Right.
And sometimes you just got to stand back and go, okay, I'm not right, but I'm certainly not right.
Right. Exactly.
And people don't do that. So I get you. I hear you 1,000%, which drops me into my next question here. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Elaborate on the challenges that United Intentions has faced while dealing with mainstream their agenda, their machine of destruction.
Oh wow, yeah. I mean, outside of the fact checkers, and we were getting we were very big on YouTube back then when before the purge, YouTube purge. I think that was like 2018 or 19 or something, or 17. I can't remember. We were getting hundreds of thousands and millions of views on different shows that we were doing on a good intention show, which was just put together. And of course, the purge came, and the Obama handed over the internet to the UN, and then all of a sudden you started seeing things just gradually get worse in the censorship. And then Facebook came, and we had 100,000 followers on Facebook, and of course that account got deleted right during 2020.
Yeah.
And then Instagram, we got blackballed on that. Never even had a chance to get TikTok up and going. Seems like we were targeted right from the beginning. So I think the message that we're sharing it's a little bit different than a lot of other messages. Maybe not so much today, but back then it seemed a little different. Power of the intentions, how, that's empowering. That's not falling into a cult or a religious dogma. This is that, hey, you're in charge of creating yourself out of this mess here that we may find ourselves in. You're the one who can stand up here. You're the one who has the ability to do it. And that was, I think, maybe too much of an empowering message.
And you're the only one that can do it.
Yeah, you're the only one that can do it. Exactly.
You're the only one that can do it in your future. No one's going to do this for you. You can't sit on your couch. You can't order your food on a computer and no, get off your butt and go engage.
Yeah, and everyone's waiting for their savior. Everyone's waiting for Trump to come in and save the day. Everyone's waiting for somebody to come and save them. And rather than realize, and perhaps maybe, what if you're here to save yourself and save others? What if you're the one?
How do they say it? Trump wasn't the guy for the job. He was the right guy for the job.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's anybody. It could be Trump. I'm just saying,
sure.
Because if you're a far liberal Democrat and you think Biden hung the moon, then that's what you believe, right?
Uh-huh.
But my point is, no one's going to save you, whether it's Biden or Trump or whoever.
No one.
Or Putin. Doesn't matter. No one's going to come save you. You're the one. I believe we're the ones that we're going to have to wake up. And we are waking up. We're waking up in so many levels. We just have to learn how to keep our energy and our frequency higher, vibration higher, and not let them bring us down right now.
But why is it always
the challenge?
Why is it always the right that wakes up first?
Yeah.
Tell me why that is.
Probably because a lot more critical thinking, a lot more probably left brain usage, perhaps, if you look at it from a science perspective or
we're going to do science, right?
Right. Well, I just think it is a critical thinking, and plus, not to mention, our school system have dumbed down our kids to the point of just repetition and memorization. They don't teach critical thinking anymore.
Not at all.
And and listen, we need our creative side. We need our right brain. We need our creative side as well. It's a balance of the two, really, because it's specifically how we have to be able to understand that our imagination is part of our process of creating our reality. And if we can imagine it, we can create it. And so you need that aspect. And then you need the action steps. You need your left brain for the action steps to get to that, to unfold your imagination to the reality that you want to experience. And Einstein said it the best to anyone. You want to experience a certain reality, just create the frequency of that reality that you want to experience. So you almost have to start first with creating what you want to experience, and then you experience it. And that's science. That's quantum science right there. And how it can be used for people to, change their reality and change their world on an individual basis. And that has to start from within too, right?
Right.
And I think that's what we're hearing a lot of this new science and understanding how it's a lot of different. I challenge a lot of my old religious beliefs too. I challenge them a lot every day, and I'm like, well, who was behind writing this stuff? What was the details? And there's a lot of stuff I'll say to myself that, hey, you know what? I could be wrong, and the other person could be right. But to me, does this make logical sense? Is this something that I'm going to change I'm going to make decisions that affect other people based on this belief that I don't know really where it came from, or if it serves me.
So a little bit of agnostic approach.
Probably so, but yet I do understand. I do believe in a higher power. I do believe
for sure, hands down.
And I have no doubt about it. Although I may not have the hard proof, but I don't need it, and we don't need it. I'll tell you why. most of all we do, like if you look at the circumstantial evidence, it's still law. You can still go to jail. You can still die on circumstantial evidence. So circumstantial evidence is fine. You don't have to be there to see when Klaus Schwab put in the nanotechnology into the vaccine, or whatever. I'm just saying that you don't have to witness their plan of their Bilderberg meetings to find out if this is what their rollout plan. You don't have to be there.
Sure.
You can look at the circumstances, you can look at the evidence that supports that, and make a conclusion and be right and be okay, and know that you can rest your head safely on your pillow that night.
Well, be reasonably right.
Yeah. So it's just that people are like, we're to the point now, like, well, I wasn't there, so I don't know, I can't believe it. Yeah, that's where I think we, like you said earlier, how do you sift through all this stuff? I think we have to start creating our own understanding through circumstantial evidence. And a lot of that I look at is not what people say anymore. I look at what their end result is. If the end result is a problem reaction solution where everyone's reacting and this is the order and everybody's buying this made up solution, then that's enough circumstantial evidence to show me that was all set up and created to begin with, just like the pandemics were, right?
The plandemic.
The plandemics were, exactly.
Right.
Yes.
So we're 20, what are we at here? 24 minutes into this first segment. I want to leave with one more question before I go to the next segment, in which we're going to take a commercial break.
Okay.
What motivated you to create a forum that addresses the issues in a straightforward and uncensored format? Now, I know you've touched on this in a lot of your questions, but give me like a one-liner, here's why.
Sure. Well, because if you want to create heaven on earth, you want to create a reality is a harmonious, beautiful reality, you have to first realize where you are. Most of us have been caught up into really a kind of a matrix, a false sense of belief of who we are based on lies, or based on false histories, based on information that we're getting is not true. I mean, you had 4.5 billion people take a bioweapon shot, and they thought they were doing the right thing,
right?
Because they were living in a reality that was not reality. So the first thing you got to start, if you want to create a true reality, a better reality, you got to know where you are. You got to look at the reality of what you are and where you are and what is going on.
Your meniscus of what you are in life, yes.
And you got to challenge that reality, and you got to meet people on that level. Because if you just start talking about, hey, we're just going to create this beautiful world through the power of our intentions, and they're like, hey, I'm just trying to get food on my table here and avoid, getting a pandemic here, getting sick here, they're not going to listen to you. You got to reach them there, and you got to say, well, where are you? So that's the reason why we're hard hitting, and we want to get very direct, uncensored, because we have to have a reality check. And if you don't know where you are in your reality, and you're not and collective reality as well, and you're not challenging that reality and looking at it, then you don't know where you're going to go. So if you don't know where you are, you can't go where you want to go. That's the bottom line.
Well, Dr. Ely was on, Ely? I always pronounce it wrong, but he was on a couple shows ago, and he talked about the mind control.
Right.
The certain group of people, they wear a ribbon in their hair, or there's certain type of clothes, or whatever that is. And he struck a couple of chords that made me think and say, that really makes sense, because you've seen it. We're so desensitized to it. It's in front of our face, and all of a sudden it's out in front of the public. And the public's going like, well, that's normal. That's religious. That's whatever. I got to take a break here. And I'm going to come back with how does the UI media enable people to speak the truth and diverse opinions. So we're going to have some mechanism in place here. Can you stand by for a second so we can take a commercial?
Absolutely.
So we have on our show today Tim Ray, the founder of UIMedia.org, and we're going to come back in a minute here, and we're going to talk about some other topics. So for Hudcast, stand by. We'll be right back.
Need a quick, healthy boost to start your day? Try Superfuel. Superfuel by Casmo is loaded with vitamins and healthy ingredients that will give you a quick, healthy boost. Make Superfuel a great-tasting, low-calorie addition to your daily regimen. Order Superfuel at www.superfuel.me or call 833-FUEL-X12, FUEL-X12, or 833-383-5912, Super Fuel.
Okay, welcome back to Headcast. Timothy Ray, founder of UIMediaNetwork.org. I was corrected there, so if you heard the UI Media, it's always network. Tim, welcome back to the show. We are going to kick this one off with, in a world of certain censorship, how does UI Media Network enable the people to speak the truth and share over diverse opinions?
Well, one of the main ways is we're not beholden to advertisers or to groups that are money rolling in. We have a program where we create win-win situations where if somebody has a service or an online service, online product, we're able to embed that into the actual videos, shows that we put together, and they get leads for people who are interested in that, and then they pay us for their leads. So we create that win-win scenario where people are able to beholden to no one other than they have a product or a service that we align with and we vet out, then we're going to support it.
Nice.
And that's just between them. So if we don't have that level of influence, and that's one of the main things. You have to make sure that if you're starting in your media business, you want to make sure that you're not going to be having big pharma groups or lobby groups, or as we're seeing now, BlackRock and Vanguard, and how they own all these companies and shell companies, and how they influence all what's going on, and with Valencia and you name it. So you can't create from the beginning. You have to have it set up that way. So that's how we're able to be uncensored. And then two, you got to know. You got to know people out there who are speaking the truth. You got to know who's out there who's controlled opposition. And there's a lot more controlled opposition than you realize.
Big time.
Yeah. And you have to weed through that. And not that you can't have controlled opposition on, but you can challenge them. You can challenge them as well when they're on. And that makes a great show, too, as well.
Well, a lot of people aren't atypical, so they're not into the challenging things in life. They just want to roll with the flow. They want to run the punch.
Yeah.
But so how do you sit to the masses? You're the type A's are out front. We're on radio. We're just like you and I. We're type A's. We make stuff happen. We stir that pot. We don't stick the little pot. We stir the big pot.
Yeah.
And they don't do that. So how do you tell them to say, hey, you got to stir whatever pot you're in to make sure it makes sense? I mean, what's your motivation to tell them that?
Well, part of it too is it's courage. It takes courage too. And I love people who like we have a mutual friend, Dr. Brian Ardis. He's I call him Batman, because he's one of the most courageous men out there I've ever seen. Single-minded, focused, just faces it. But that doesn't mean he's not scared. Doesn't mean people like I interviewed Thomas Campbell. I don't know if you know him, but he worked at the Monroe Institute and also NASA physicist. And Thomas Campbell wrote the book I think called My Big Toe, and he said my definition of courage is being scared but doing it anyway.
See Thomas Howell, 1864. I've heard that before.
Really? Okay. Well, that's where I heard it from Thomas Campbell. So wherever you heard it from, I'm sure that's probably valid. And so it always stuck with me that it was, because right now you're talking about a level of censorship where, as in history, in China, in Mao, Russia, people were killed. When communism rolled into a country. The first places they would go to would be the radio stations and the TV, and they take them over, and then they just usually dispose of you. So you're talking about we've had this false sense of these days, this false sense of a delusion that our First Amendment rights are protecting us. But We're seeing how First Amendment rights now are being abused, used, and not even being honored.
Weaponized.
They're being weaponized.
Yes.
They're using false flags to create this challenge, whatever our First, Second, our amendments are right now. They have watered them down. So we're in a very precarious situation now when it comes to our First Amendment freedom of speech. And the censorship is so just like the mammoths out there, the Googles, the Facebooks, all the ones that we now perverted into where it's just if their agenda is what their agenda is, and if you go against that, then you get censored.
Right.
The next level is black banned, right? So we're very close to more strength, and what we're seeing this kind of movement into this extremist movement now we're seeing, and I can't stand wars. I think they're all false flags. Every one of them has been a false flag.
Yep.
And they're just created for making other people rich and control power for them. and at the fodder of human beings dying and for their own reasons. And so we're there. We're very close. People like you and I are on the front line to like you said, stir the big pots. We're that close to not being here or being imprisoned or even something worse when you go against a agenda that is communistic, that is the tool that the New World Order is using, is a communistic agenda. And so it's like I said, it's precarious times, and that's where the courage comes in. And that's where we have to instill in others to do it anyway. Be scared and speak up anyway. Because if you don't, you'll lose it.
Yep.
If you use it, you'll keep it. If you don't, you'll lose it. Either way, whether the worst scenario happens or not, at least you'll be speaking your truth. And to me, there's no death. So I don't fear death like I used to, perhaps when I was younger. I don't believe in it. I believe that there's, of course, we transition to whatever we're going to be going into.
Right.
But people have to hold on to that. They have to hold on to that, not be scared and let that stop them from speaking their truth.
You know why there's a First Amendment, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a Second Amendment.
Yeah, and they're working hard. Exactly. It's because of this First Amendment, because there's a Second Amendment. Exactly right.
And that Second Amendment. So if anybody knows my show, we're pretty big Second Amendment supporters. So if at any point I feel the tyrannical grip of the whoever whats want to come down and start squeezing me, they're going to need some help.
Well, that's and I'm on board with that 100% too. At the same time, we can't wait until people show up to our front door. We're not going to be united, and they're passing red flag laws, they're passing all these things now that are setting people up to where they will be isolated.
Yes.
So if there's something needs to happen now in reference to uniting. Let them see the numbers of people with their Second Amendment rights. Don't sit there and wait till they come knocking on your door, because then it's too late. So it's, we want to unite now, let people know that we have our right to bear arms, we have a right for our freedom of speech.
As we should, as our founding forefathers have seen this in the past. Their wisdom was beyond mention.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm on that page. Like I said, there's a first because there's a second, and there's a second because you need a first.
Yeah, and go right up the line.
Oh, man. Right? The rest of them are just kind of like in line for, whatever's interpolation, but they're still, that's the law.
Right.
So is the prevalence of fear-based suppressive news sources highlighted? The need for concise media today is what? Other than the truth. And again, the truth is an opinion based upon what someone sees. Their dimension, their meniscus of that truth.
Right. Well, it to me is, there's always Jewish saying, there's my truth, there's your truth, and there's the truth, right? And so you have to allow people, wherever they are in their truth, express it. Now, it may not be your truth, or you may be offended by what their truth is, or you may wholeheartedly disagree with what they're saying, right? But to suppress one's truth because you disagree with it, and then not to another's or to your own, defeats the whole purpose of the freedom of speech. Why we were even freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, why we're even here having this conversation. So people have to understand they have to be able to say what they want. Now, when there's a group that's maneuvering themselves to ownership, to censor only what they want to see, as we're seeing now in mainstream media, we're seeing online, we're seeing with the Vanguard and BlackRock how they're they're owning all these media outlets and they're, from the newspapers to the print to the TV, right? Radio.
Okay, yeah.
So that's when you have these antitrust laws that of course never being followed now, but that's when you're in trouble, and we have to make sure that we're concise in the sense that we have to call that out. We got to bring notice to that, and you almost have to reanimate our amendments to the American people and to the people around the world, how critical they are, because they have been ignored. They're taken out of our school books now. They're not even discussed in many schools because they're so dangerous.
Right.
One reason why they had to weaponize our agencies is because they knew they have to. The only thing that's in the way of full-on authoritarianism, 1984 scenario, is our amendments, our first and a second mainly. And so they know that's just thing, that a pain in the neck they have to get rid of. And they're doing it every which way they can. So we have to reanimate that into our society and let people understand it's not about social rights, it's about civil rights. We got to bring the civil rights back into our understanding of how important they are, our individual rights, than ever before. And I would say you can focus on individual rights and in the conciseness of what news you're gathering, you'll never go wrong. I think you'll always be on target, even if you disagree with what they're saying.
I find it odd, and I get to a lot of mixers and fundraisers and stuff like that. I mean, not very many fundraisers, but you know what I'm saying. I get around these different types of people. And when you get around the Dems, and you know, I fly the red flag or the right flag, and you know, but I also fly the common sense flag. And even if the right's wrong, it's still wrong.
Right.
The difference between what the left says about the Constitution versus the right says. And I asked that question just because, you know, I'm that guy. I says, what does the Constitution mean to you? And in a nutshell, they say that it's a living document that needs to be adjusted all the time. And the right guys say it's hands down the Bible. That's the way it's got to be.
Right.
There's the difference I've seen talking to lefts, rights, alpha warriors, you name it. I've talked to them. What do you think about that comment?
Well, it's like you said, it's extreme in both ends. You know, because when it comes to individual rights, you can't divide that anymore. It's not divisible anymore, right? You can't say we have to support the black culture. We have to support the gay culture. We have to support, because when you break that down, you break perhaps the gay culture down, it's going to come down to individual rights. So everything comes down to the individual rights. And the beautiful part about the Constitution, it was created around individual rights. Did they get everything correct? Was it, you know, how this three-part system and the republic concept and everything? Or could there be some things that people could look at? But I don't know. I think it's a great stepping stone. I think the Constitution of the United States is beyond any constitution around the world, and is the perfect stepping stone to a culture or cultures who are on a spiritual path. Will a constitution always be needed in this kind of 3D reality, in this human reality that we live in? I hope not. I hope that we can evolve enough on a spiritual level that we would not want to do harm to anyone. We would not want to breach anybody's alienable rights. We would not want to hurt someone for my gain and their loss. I hope that we evolve on a spiritual level where we could step up from the Constitution to a whole other way of interacting with humanity and beyond. And I think this is something that we look at. So I would disagree with probably both ends. You know.
Well, then let me ask you a different question.
Yeah, go ahead.
We have a Bible, and no one questions that.
Right.
It is the Bible. They say it's the Bible.
Right.
So now, by what you just said, how does the Bible fit in?
Well, you know, are we talking about the King James version?
Oh, yeah.
Freemason?
Whichever version you want.
Are we talking about the Mormons? Or are we talking about how about the Apocrypha? How about all the 75 different books that didn't make the cut? Are we talking about that? What was the reason?
Right.
What was the reason? How about the Sumerian tablets that was written 6,000 years ago? That you can find a lot of that in our Bible too, as well, and many other ones. So, I mean, this is where I think people have to question from day one, because if you look at this, how we're conditioned and brainwashed and propagandized, as we're seeing on the media. That's just the media. You see people waking up to that now every day. But you can imagine how when your first day you're born, how you've been also brought into a system of belief based on other people's belief. Right. Now you internalize it to be your belief. Yes. So when you do get old enough where you start questioning beliefs, and it's that right of the child to push away from their parents, usually as a teenager, to start their own, right? And it's one of those moments in time where you have to start questioning things. And that's when, if you're supported with critical thinking, supporting an environment where you could be a free thinker on that level, you can challenge these things and look at it and then say, you know what? These are beautiful parts of this. of the Bible, or this version of the Bible. And these are not so beautiful parts of it, of the Talmud or of the Torah. And you know what? This could have been regionally created for control by man. This could have been manipulated to the caste system of the Hindus, of the caste system, to keep people suppressed. You got to be able to challenge and use your own individual thinking on that, and then take the good and leave the bad, or look at it from what it is, and then make your decisions how you want to live your life on your terms, right? On your terms that you vetted, you looked at, and you now believe to be true. And even then, do we really know the full picture? I think we never will, at least not from this perspective of a human.
How could you?
I think it's like we're looking at a prism. Everyone's looking from their own angle, and their angle is the truth. But yet it's not the complete full prism. You can't see it from that perspective. And so I think that's, I would tell people who are caught into that level, start thinking gray, and stop thinking black and white. Because what has black and white ever got you in life?
The opposite.
Exactly. In fact, when you think in the black and white, it's very extremist. You go into this kind of religious fanaticism we're seeing right now roll out. You're seeing people being murdered on levels that you never imagined before. We saw it over in Maui. We saw it at Acapulco. I mean, you saw these, and you go down the road of looking at the truth in these 15-minute cities and the direct energy weapons and how they're being used, and you go down that, you see exactly, wow, this is all doable. They got the motive, they got the means, and they got the opportunity all there. You can't, and even though I'm not up in space looking at how these using these direct energy weapons, they have that technology's there, and they used it, and we could prove it, and so that's circumstantial evidence you got to vet and now put into your belief system to challenge that. So I would say go down that rabbit hole. Stop taking other people's words for what you believe, and analyze your own beliefs, and then go from there. And if you are justifying war, you are justifying killing human beings, you are justifying and rationalizing vengeance and murder on any level, then I would say, you know what? Perhaps that's not your belief system. That may be somebody else's belief system who has another agenda that you're not even aware of.
Pretty deep thought there, huh?
Right. Well, it's a tough one because people hold their beliefs very very close to their life.
Yes.
And beliefs, if you look at beliefs in general, I mean, it stops growth, right? I have a belief, it's done, solid. You're never able to bring in new data to challenge that belief.
They're stuck in their ways.
Exactly. And if that's the case, then we're stuck in our ways, and we may not be looking at reality for what it is. We may be looking at reality for what somebody else wants us to believe it to be, so they can manipulate and control us.
Right. Me and Elias had this conversation, and it wasn't quite this long, but I got it. Yeah. So let me shift a gear here.
Sure.
And tell me if I'm accurate. And the question is, can you share more about your current projects, the exclusive 3-part documentary series, Death by Deception, focused on the truth behind COVID and the vaccines? Is that
Absolutely.
a current project for you?
Yes. In fact, we launched that a few months ago, and it's what we do, because we have our regular shows we do each week, but really what we've been really focusing on is a exclusive series where we offer our members people who have real inside information. And we captured Dr. Brian Ardis's venom discovery and really captured a 3-part series from identifying what it is, how they're using venom in the spike proteins, the synthetic venom that they created, who was murdered. And I'll tell you what, you could make a better movie out of this, where you have murder, you have suspense, you have a global conspiracy. I mean, you got every makings of a full Hollywood movie wrapped up into what they did with the venom and what Dr. Brian Ardis and his team discovered. And so it's just phenomenal. And from how they came out and they suppressed this information. They I believe murdered Bing Liu, who was a Chinese at a university here, a Chinese student who basically discovered, hey, they have venom in these things. These are cobra venom they're using, these synthetic spike proteins. And then you look into who's behind that. We've discussed the CIA's involvement and how they've been messing with venom since the 70s and 60s, and the big industries like Venco, Venom Co, I should say, and how these companies are billion-dollar industries are producing venom and have been. It's in our makeup. It's in cancer research. They're using venom throughout decades, and we never heard about.
Right,
right. And so we expose all that as well. We just did another teaching, I think it'd be a 2-part series with Dr. David Martin on the pandemic. We have another one we just rolls out next week. It's called The Next Pandemic. That's with Dr. Ely and Dr. Group and Dr. Brian Ardis and Dr. Judy Mikovits and a bunch of others, speaking about the next pandemic and how they're setting us up for and how it's going to be worse than the first one. That gets released, I think, next week. So we stay busy on getting this information out, but we just again, we let the truth take us where it takes us, and that's what you get.
Well, I've been asked to do all 5 of you or 4 of you on the panel, but because of my antiquated in-face, I can only get so many of you on at one time, and if we could do a Zoom in, I could only do audio only, but of course my console only connects up. It's a retired music studio, so it's old school.
Right.
But I wanted to get 5 of you, and I don't know how I could. It's like herding cats at that point.
Right.
How do you get the conversation going in a direction that the audience will listen to? And again, we are in 70 plus countries, and we have well over 45 million. I stopped counting long ago. Viewers. Right. And when Ardis kicked on, I had 1,000 downloads within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, let me rephrase that. Within the first 10 hours, I'll be fair. I had 1,000 downloads in the first 10 hours, and I dropped my episodes at 5 o'clock.
Well, Batman, he's articulate, but he has the science behind him, and it's hard to get around that. And he's funny in his own way, and so it's amazing. And this information coming out too is spot on, and it's all there in front of your face. It's just not being allowed in mainstream media, online or in print or in radio. Just that's how much control you realize the CIA, you realize the government agencies have been propagandized. I mean, hell, they just passed the Mundt-Smith Act of 2003, whatever it was. Now they could use propaganda against the American people. That's why we're seeing all these made-up crisis actors and what's going on there, because they legally, the media cannot be held accountable for lying to the American people. That's how far gone and unconstitutional these laws in the last so many years have been put in place, to the point where we're seeing now that we're basically, we're warmongering. And I look back and I challenged the 9/11. I challenged all that, and the millions of Iraqis we killed in the name of our revengeance for 9/11 had nothing to do with that in the first place. So it just, and I think this revelation, this is a revealing that we're all looking at, and we're revealing, and you have to look at everything revealing, with all your religious beliefs, everything. This is the revealing time. This is the apocalypse, the revelation, and we got to challenge everything that we've known to be true and question everything that we've known, and then create, hopefully, a harmonious, loving way of beliefs to move forward humanity to this next level wherever we're going. Because at this rate, we can't stay unconscious like we are. We will destroy humanity quickly, as it looks like we may be going down. But I still have hope. This revelation, this revealing, will wake us, most of us up.
It almost sounds like a little bit of Demolition Man. Remember that movie back in the 80s?
Yeah.
Everybody's going to have a joy time and going to wear a moo-moo and sit on a couch, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you got the left who says, you got to get more dirty. And then you got the other guy who says, you got to get more clean. I mean,
right.
Somewhere in the middle, there's the truth.
Yeah. Listen, that's all we could hope for, right?
What are the key insights that viewers can expect from Death by Deception?
One, you'll find out how predominant venom is in our society, in companies that are producing it, and how it's being used. And it's like 99% being used, actual venom. It's not anti-venom being used. It's venom being used. For example, that new drug they have that's like they say for diabetes or weight loss, people are taking, I can't remember the name of it. That's a lizard venom. They're using it. And what it does is it paralyzes your stomach, so you're not hungry.
Wow.
And same thing with the cobra. The cobra paralyzes your lungs, venom, right, during the COVID, and that's why people with the ventilators weren't working. Like, why wouldn't the ventilators work? Because it wasn't a respiratory issue; it was a venom, it's a poisoning issue, and so you start realizing, wow, there's venom in everything. Even this next pandemic that they're planning, the Marburg, potentially Marburg disease, is a snake, more snake venom. I think it's the boom sling snake. And so, it's like, wow, this serpent energy of poisoning is so predominant in everything we do that it's almost like it's so obvious that it's there in front of your face that nobody sees it. It's like Hitler said, people won't believe the little lies, but they'll believe the big lies, and so here we are believing the big lies. And I think that'll be the biggest awakening. People realize, wow, and how, the symptoms of venom poisoning makes all sense if you look back in the last 3 years of how, monoclonals were working. Why would they work? Because monoclonals you use for venom bites. Why you lost your taste and smell? That never happened before in a virus before. Because
Right.
when you get bit by a snake, you lose your taste and smell. So it's just like a lot of things. And then that we get exposed to behind it and the roles. And the most important thing, we give the treatments from the nicotine receptors to, and you'll find out where nicotine is actually not bad for you. It's the chemicals that the tobacco company put into the cigarettes that made it addictive. But nicotine's in apples, nicotine's in all different types of fruits, and we have nicotine receptors. We actually have receptors built into the human brain to receive nicotine. That's how important it is, and how they block the venom and the spike proteins, synthetic spike proteins, go directly into the nicotine receptors. So if you block them with nicotine, they can't get to you. So, and it's just amazing stuff that the details that you're like, okay, and plus we show all the documents and all the papers that prove what we're saying. Expose that to people could do their own research. A lot of doctors watch the show and they're like, wow, and they go down that rabbit hole looking at the research papers and that are all produced and peer reviewed, and like, well, I think it's an eye opener for them. They have to kind of reverse their role,
Right.
and their perspective on things, and hopefully challenge the medical model that Rockefeller put in together for us, right?
So here's another one, and
Yeah.
and again in a 600 word less or smaller dissertation, because we're 27 minutes a second segment. What are the future plans and aspirations for UI Media Networks and your mission to promote positive change in people's lives? I mean, just kind of a
right now is to we really kind of on an education process of understanding and teaching about frequencies and emotions. We have like a show on raising frequency next week. We have heart math. We have one of the people there from heart math showing how the coherence of moving from our brain to our heart, and how we could stay there, and how the heart has a brain, and it's much more powerful than our brain. And how if we get coherent with that, we can move forward. So our goal is to get more into what we can do and treatments and also solutions to the chaos that we've been identifying, and to really give people hope and how they can make the change. And that's really kind of how we'll take it day at a time at that point, solution oriented.
Okay. Now this is the plug point. This last section is all about what you're going to launch. So plug away, give us information, give us where we can call, do your thing.
Sure. Well, right now you could go, it's all free. We don't charge for any of our shows. You can go on UIMediaorg.com or UIMediaorg.org, either or, and you can watch our shows, Frequency Wars shows, which is a really impactful show, as well as a hard-hitting show. And then we have Raising the Frequency, which is more of an entertaining show. I have a co-host there, and people go and learn stuff that they never thought about before. Stuff that's been suppressed, information that's been censored on a collective level, and also how you could, if you want you guys to watch us live, the shows on the Raise the Frequency are Tuesdays at 8 a.m. Eastern time, and you can watch us live, interact online. We read your comments as well, and you could always call in too, 678-495-4345, and speak to us. We try to keep it as lively as possible, and then we try to get information out there too. If you have any ideas, you think there's some information that you want us to get out, let us know. And usually we'll start vetting it down. If it's worthy, we'll start vetting it down and speak to these people and try to get information out that you never heard before. Our exclusives are constantly growing. I think we're flying out to California to do a exclusive with a series with Dr. G. Edward Griffin, and going to get capturing what his perspective for the last 60 years of the rollout of not only communism, but of this New World Order banking, as he called it, international bankers takeover. So we're constantly be growing and moving, and we just want to surround ourselves with like-minded people like yourself, Tim, and partner with you in any way we can, because if we unite, this whole point, our foundation is called United Intentions Foundation. See, and there's power in prayer, as they say. Two more people come together in prayer. Two more people come together in united intention, because there's an exponential energetic response when people unite their intentions with each other. And that's what we heard about throughout history, biblically, and on every level. And so there is a frequency intensity. So the goal is not to do this on our own. The goal is to unite with other like-minded souls. And then we find even more courage. We find even more solutions, and we're able to cover more ground and with more people because we're uniting together. So anything you or others have in mind that you feel like the United Intentions Foundation can assist in or participate in, and all we want to do is create win-win scenarios, no zero-sum game scenarios. And if we could create a win-win scenario with you, we're in. And I hope that message gets out to everyone to try to do the same thing.
Podcast is translated in at least 7 languages that I know of. And it's not something I did. This is nothing it's part of Hatebook's algorithm. Are you guys multilingual?
We tried that back, did some, there's a couple of different ones. It was just a little pricey for us to do that. We wanted to interpret some of our shows, but then AI might have gotten better now where we could do that, but that's something that we should be doing. We should be somehow, maybe you could help us along with that if you're already ahead of the game on that.
I don't think I did anything. I think it just did it.
Oh, it does it automatically?
Well, my biggest platform is, we call it Hatebook, because no matter what you say, everybody hates on it. And it just kind of, I'm in English and binary. Those are the 2 languages I officially know.
Right.
And it just turned into all these other formats. So I'm getting, Russia was a big listener, UK was a listener. I mean, all kinds of different areas. I'm getting voicemails, and it's like, holy cow.
Wow.
So,
well, if there's a way, I'd love to, because of course you reach more people, and that's the goal, really, to wake as many as they possibly can.
Yeah, and you think 45 million is a big number, but it's not when it's worldwide.
Oh, yeah, but still, it's a humongous number, and for these days in censorship and times, that's beyond impressive, Tim.
Wow.
That is, and that's where people are going to have to never give up, and you're actually a beacon of light for others like myself who won't give up, because we have to get this word out.
We'll put a voice on it. Yeah, we got to put a voice on this.
Right, exactly. I agree.
Put some minds together and say, okay, what makes sense?
Yes, and and we create our own conglomeration where we focus on the truth. We focus on our truth. Allow people to speak their truth is more importantly and better stated, because everybody has their own truth.
Yep.
And so we allow a platform or format for people to speak their own truth and get that message out there, where no one's scared to say how they feel, because they're going to be put away in jail.
And what can we learn? What's to learn here? That's the biggest thing. What can we learn?
Yes, I would say right now we're learning to be open-minded and light on our feet. Yeah. I think David Icke mentioned that before, that we have to be open-minded now, not closed down, because the cognitive dissonance is tremendous. To stay open-minded and light on your feet, meaning go whichever direction that your intuition, your critical thinking takes you. Now is the time to be settled in and in a belief system that's bunkered you down in fear is not a place to be today. We got to raise frequency. That's what we need to learn. We got to know how to raise frequency amongst chaos. Like David Carradine in Kung Fu.
Yeah.
he would sit in the middle of a place, and he would know to either sit and think, or get up and start kicking some butt.
Yeah.
So he knew he had to still himself to figure out what would the best scenario to do. He was light on his feet based on what the situations were. If we could be more like Kung Fu, I think we'd be in a better situation today.
The Shaolin priest.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm ready to lift any pots with the inside of my arms on a red hot thing yet, but when I get to that point, I'll let you know. I mean, there's no Shaolin priest here, and I do remember the show.
There you go. Bring Kung Fu back. Right?
Bring Kung Fu back. So, Timothy Ray, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart and from the common sense of the people who listen to this show for coming on here and giving us your intel.
Excellent. Well, I can't thank you enough for getting the word out, and anything we could do at the foundation, Tim, let us know. And I look forward to partnering with you on some level, some endeavor, because I just like hanging out with like-minded people, bottom line.
Well, you tell your constituents there, or your friends, that I'm trying to get the multi-people in on this. And again, I hope it ain't like herding cats, because I can have this one-on-one and I can get the intel I need.
Absolutely.
But I think a panel would be a nice deal.
I think so, too.
Okay. All right, we're going to put a fork in this, and we are 36 in the second segment. Tim, thank you again. Show notes for the people out there. You hear them, you listen to them. Take it for what you believe. Question your beliefs sometimes, and then be solid in what they are. But until then, next time, Hutcast, we appreciate you tuning in, and stay happy, people, because that's all we got left. Hutcast is out.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for Hutcast. Hutcast is, again, a pragmatic approach to seeing things how some people see them. If you like our show, give us a thumbs up on the Facebook site. Again, for Hutcast, thank you again. Have a wonderful evening.